Welcome to Contracting Conversations. My name is Jim Valley, and I'm joined by my co-host, Scott Williams. Today, our conversation is with Cindy Baker, Professor of Contract Management for DAU in the Mid-Atlantic region. She's the event organizer for DAU's weekly event series called the COR Office Hours. Cindy, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the COR Office Hours, where we meet 49 times a year.
That's awesome. We'll get to that in just a second. So for the audience out there, I just want to remind you, if you could, please subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or DAU Media, and please like our videos. That helps with logarithms out there that then they'll send the information to other people that might be interested in this information. So Cindy, let's begin with you sharing the origin story of the COR Office Hours.
All right. Well, thank you again for this opportunity. And I'm going to take everybody back to the year 2020. And it was shortly after the pandemic started. And I just happened to be the learning asset manager for the COR mandatory course, which is called CLC 106, COR with Mission Focus. And I was just wondering, how can we make COR training better than the online training courses that we have for DoD cores? And I reached out to my colleague, David Dotson, because he was and is still the learning asset manager for COR 222, and wanted to brainstorm with him. What do you think, David? What could we do to improve the learning experience for DoD cores? He said, well, let me think about it. And we talked again. This was roughly April of 2020. And he came back to me and he said, I was thinking, and what we could do is like a radio show where you have two hosts and they banter, and, you banter with the attendees. And I do have to say, as a side note, David has an amazing radio voice. So I was instantly sold in terms of his idea. And, fast forward some months later, we had the opportunity to do a DoD core orientation through a webinar. And shortly after that, just kind of, David, you know what we need to do? Let's do a COR office hour where it's kind of a different kind of a live event, where, attendees have a voice and they can interact with the facilitators, with the presenters. And we started the DoD COR office hours in October of 2020.
Great, Cindy. That's some really good background. Could you give us some more information on how this event series has actually assisted with the professional development of cores?
Well, it's been interesting to see since then how the event series has evolved and helped the DoD core community. So we initially started the series where we had open forums, open topics, but continually our attendees turned into regular attendees, and then they wanted scheduled topics. So now, at this point, we ensure that most of our 49 times a year are scheduled topics. To include, recently, we started a PI open forum. So PI, of course, being that business enterprise system that cores use for various responsibilities. And that has been really helpful for their development.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. How many attendees are typically in each COR office hour?
Well, I'll be honest, when we started, not a lot. And then basically exploded in early 2021. And since then, now we see roughly, I would say 150 to 250 attendees each Tuesday. So we meet every Tuesday for 1 hour from 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time to 12:45.
All right. Awesome, Cindy. So, COR is such a huge area. There's so much knowledge out there when it comes to cores. So I guess the question is, how do you go about organizing this event series to make sure the cores get the information they need? I'll tell you, as been doing contracting for a long time, having worked in contingency environment, I think cores are, if you're done getting that contract awarded, it is the most critical part for a successful contract. So I'm so glad you have the show. So how do you organize this?
That's a great question, Jim. It's not easy, I will say that. But what has been working really well is listening to the voice of the attendees, as well as fellow faculty members in DAU. So event attendees can fill out a survey upon the conclusion of each live event, and then that feeds into an internal system within DAU, and I carefully keep on top of that system and the data resulting from the surveys. So constantly screening what are attendees requesting for future topics, and then also paying attention to the Teams chat stream, because we host this event series in Microsoft Teams. And so also pay attention to that in terms of what attendees are saying, and if they request anything, I keep a sharp eye out on that.
Okay, so I really think that there's going to be a lot of cores interested in this once they know about it, and that's what we're trying to do, is get the word out on this. Where can they go, the DoD core community, go online to find out more information on this series?
Well, DAU has a wonderful resource through our online community of practices, where we have various, we call them COPs, various COPs, and we do have one for cores. So we actually have a page within our core COP that has the meeting link, it has the scheduled topics, it has a link for the past recordings. So it's a great resource 24/7 for our DoD cores.
And I like what you just said there, Cindy, 24/7, right? So anytime they want some information on a certain topic when it comes to core, they can get it. So this is awesome. It kind of reminds me of contracting conversation in some ways, because of how many weeks a year you're doing this. And that takes a big commitment to do that. But there are so many cores out there that really are hungry for information. So this is a great way to get out there. So thank you so much for enlightening us on this vital event series.
Thank you, Jim and Scott, for highlighting this professional learning community. And we look forward to serving our DoD core community.
That's great. And, we have a lot of other conversations we want to have with you. And, we want to have a course series. And also from what you said, Cindy, we are going to put those links that you talked about so people have easy access to where they can get these online resources for the COR Office Hours. And we'll put that in the description below.
Thank you.
Awesome. Go ahead, Scott. Take it down.
All right. Well, folks, thanks. That's all the time we have for today. But as Jim explained at the opening, please hit that like button. We really appreciate it when you take the time to do that. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our Contracting Conversations channel. Type any comments below to include your questions for future discussions, and help us spread the word of this channel to your peers and to those you supervise or lead. Again, you can find us on DU Media, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. And as always, we look forward to having future contracting conversations with you.